As many of you may know, there are a couple ways that you can configure your account here at PhoneBurner to help you manage the contacts, the data in your system. And what I'm referring to is the networked versus standalone. Now, hopefully you've heard of this before. Maybe you've seen some training on this and some other training modules. But what I want to talk about are the two different types of ways that you can set up your account. One being standalone, where everybody on your team has their own database. Very common with teams, so that each individual can kind of manage their own leads and follow up with just their contacts. But we do have a lot of teams that like to work collaboratively, in which case they may want to configure their PhoneBurner account in what we refer to as network. So let's go into the team settings in my PhoneBurner account here. And over on the left-hand side, I'm going to click on Advanced. And this is where you can see the option to switch from standalone to networked. Now keep in mind, everybody is set up as standalone out of the box because that's the most common configuration for teams. However, we understand that not everybody wants to work that way. Not everybody wants to silo their data within each individual user's account. And so we have this other option called networked. And you can always switch from standalone to networked. When you switch from standalone to networked, if you've been standalone for a while and you already have contacts that are in those individual users' databases, you're going to get this message that's going to pop up and let you know that, hey, there are contacts in each of your team members' databases. Those contacts will not be moved into the admin account. You would need to figure out if you're going to move those to the admin account or not. So just keep that in mind. If you've already been working in a standalone configuration, you may have to migrate data back to the admin account. Now, I'm not going to migrate anything in this particular case because I'm going to leave the data where it is in case I want to revert back to a standalone setup. All those records will still be in there. But again, I'm not recommending that you do that. So I'm going to go ahead and type in confirm. And now I can continue and set up my account as networked. But what does this really mean, right? This means that everybody works out of the same database. So if I go to the contacts tab as the admin, I'm going to see all of the folders and you'll see all of the contacts in those folders. So for example, my Winbacks Call 1 folder in the admin account, it has 1,078 records. If I log in as a team member, and I go to that exact same folder, and you'll see that the folder setup is exactly the same. If I go back to the Winbacks Call 1 folder, I'll see that there are 1,078 records. So again, the network mode is designed for teams that are very collaborative. The problem with this is you can step on each other's toes because everybody sees everything. However, you can take advantage of LeadStream in a networked environment, and that's what we're going to talk about on this specific training. We are going to set up a Blind Pull LeadStream in a networked account, allowing a team to see all of the data. Everybody on the team is going to be able to see all the data, but we're going to make it so that each individual can start dialing from the same list at the same time in a Blind Pull LeadStream. So hopefully you've already seen some information or seen some videos about configuring and setting up a Blind Pull LeadStream. This training, we're going to set up a brand new Blind Pull LeadStream in this networked account, and I'm going to walk you through the setup and some of the things that you may want to consider when you're working in a networked account and setting up a Blind Pull LeadStream. So let's go back to the admin account. In the admin account, let's go to the Contacts tab, and let's start configuring a LeadStream. If I click on the gear in the upper right-hand corner, wait a second. You'll notice that we do not see the LeadStream option in this menu. Now that is not an error. By default, we don't show the LeadStream option in networked accounts because most of our networked account organizations don't really use LeadStream, but that doesn't mean you can't take advantage of it. So remember, if you've watched some of the other training, we saved the LeadStream link to our quick link. So I can get there from my admin account in a networked account through this quick link. Now, if you've already switched to networked and you didn't save this as a quick link, you can always just go to phoneburner.com/rotator/index, and that'll take you to the LeadStream page. So go there and then save that as a quick link. Okay, now that we've got that out of the way, let's start setting up a lead stream. And I'm not going to go into extreme detail on some of this stuff because, again, this is part of the LeadStream training module, and I'm hoping that you've already watched a lot of the other training videos. So let's go ahead and just click on Add LeadStream. I'm going to enable this and name it. And again, the type of lead stream we're setting up is a blind pull lead stream. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. And you'll notice that I have the preset option here. And I can choose a dialer preset. But the problem that we may run into with the dialer preset, just standard across the board, is we typically configure dispositions in PhoneBurner to move contacts into specific folders. And so we're going to need to talk about that and how we're going to manage that data depending on who is working the leads and how we're following up with leads that we connect with. So don't worry, we'll dig into that. But just right now, all we're going to do is just create a new dialer preset. We'll just call it networked preset. And we can assign phone scripts and voicemails and dialing sets and live answer sets and a caller ID and enable recording, right? So we can turn all that stuff on, but I'm just gonna throw in some stuff here for right now because we're gonna come back to dialer presets after we set up the lead stream. So let's just go ahead and set this up right now because we're gonna come back and edit that later on. So we now have our dialer preset. Now we can move on to our distribution folder. Let's create a distribution folder, but I'm gonna name it Networked Blind Pull. So I'm gonna copy that and then I'm gonna create new folder. Paste that in there, hit OK. Scroll down to our receiving folder, right? So as we start making calls, we got to take them out of the distribution folder. We need to move them into the receiving folder until we know, are they getting recycled or did we connect with them and we need to take them out of the lead stream. So we're going to create a new folder here called Networked Blind Pull RCV. Click OK. I'm not going to lock this in, and that's going to make a little bit more sense later on, but I'm not locking in the receiving folder. And then when it comes to the recycle folder, we are going to recycle right back into the networked blind pull. We're just going to create this loop that everybody we don't connect with just goes back into the pool and gets called again. These might be fresh leads, these might be aged leads, doesn't really matter. I'm going to set a recycle time of 6 hours in this particular case. And I'm going to do it from the time the lead was distributed because they're called and distributed at the same time. My team is not going to be calling them after or outside of the blind pull lead stream, so we don't need to be resetting the recycle time. I'm not going to worry about sorting by any custom fields. I'm going to leave that alone. Of course, you could take advantage of that if you wanted to. In this particular case, this specific lead stream, that might make sense for you to take advantage of if you've got that activated on your account. Doesn't matter if I hide the leads or not in this particular case. They can always go to the folder and see how many leads are in there. So if I'm in a networked account and I'm doing a blind pull lead stream, I would probably never worry about hiding the total number of leads because they can always see them. Now let's click on Next, Add Recipients. This is where we're going to kind of stop and step back a minute, and we're going to talk through some things, right? So normally, if you've watched the other videos, we would just essentially select all, and we would add them to the lead stream. But in this particular case, because we have one shared database, we need to make sure that we have a process in place to help everybody manage their data so that when Heather connects with somebody, she doesn't lose track of that contact. And when I connect with somebody, I don't lose track of that contact. So we're actually going to step away for a second from the lead stream, and we're going to talk about dialing in live answer sets. So we're going to leave this. Let's go to dial session settings. From dial session settings, we're going to click on dispositions. And in here, we're going to see that I actually have 3 live answer sets that are actually named for each of my team members, right? My dialing sets are all still very generic, but we'll get the concept of what I'm talking about here in the live answer sets, because when it comes to a blind pull lead stream, if somebody doesn't connect with them, we just want those recycled back. And so there doesn't need to be anything that's agent specific in those, in the dialing sets. But if an agent, if one of my reps connects with somebody live, I need to make sure that that rep is able to follow up with that specific contact. So let's take a look at Jeff's set here. We'll use this one as our first example. So we've got Jeff's set. In this particular case, we've got a set appointment button, and you'll notice that that button moves the contact to Jeff's appointments folder. So it's actually moving the contacts into a specific folder for this specific user. Not interested just goes to a generic not interested. Do not call goes to a generic do not call. So what we want to do is we want to create dispositions, sets of dispositions that help us keep the data separated for each individual. That can be done by folders like you see here, or let's take, for example, I'm going to go ahead and add a new button just to give you another option to consider. I'm going to call this my follow-up button. And I want this button to be a follow-up date button, so they set a follow-up date. And I want it to move contacts into a follow-up folder, so I have this generic follow-up. So all of the follow-ups go into the one folder. And the reason why I want to do this is if we do everything folder-based and we're creating folders for every individual user, we might end up with a lot of different folders, especially as our team grows. And so we want to take into consideration when we should use a folder and when we might want to not use a folder, right? So in this particular case, I do want to use a folder, but I don't want to use a folder for each of my reps, because then I'd have to create 3 separate follow-up folders, just like I did with the set appointments. So not the wrong way to do it, right? Neither way is wrong or right. It's just how do you want to manage the data in your account. So what I can do if I'm going to use one standard folder across the board for all of my team members is I can add tags. So I can create a tag called Jeff, and I can add that tag to anybody that gets dispositioned as follow-up in the Jeff live answer set. And I could also remove Cassie and Heather, just in case those tags were previously on there and didn't get removed. When Jeff calls somebody and sets a follow-up, he wants to make sure that Cassie and Heather are removed so that he's the only one doing that follow-up. And that'll make a little bit more sense here in a little bit. So let's go ahead and save changes. And so now we have our follow-up button. We can reorder this button, set it right next to our set appointment button. And if we refresh, we'll see it right there in our preview. So now we've got a follow-up button for the Jeff live answer set. Let's take a quick peek at Heather and Cassie. So we'll go into Heather set. We'll see it's not there. Oh no, this one actually has one. So let's actually move this up. We're going to edit this one. And we're going to go down here to add tags. This is Heather, so we're going to add Heather, and we're going to remove Jeff and Cassie. Make sure this is a set a date, save changes. Perfect, we're all set there. And you'll see the set appointments go into Heather's appointments folder. Now let's go back to our dispositions and we'll take a look at Cassie's set. This one doesn't have a follow-up button, so let's add a follow-up button. Move into the follow-ups folder. This is Cassie, so we're removing Heather and Jeff and adding Cassie. And follow up is set date, save changes, and we'll move that up. There we go. So now everybody, if we go back to our dispositions, we'll see everybody, everybody's unique live answer sets have the same number of buttons, right? We got 5 buttons in each one of those. We don't have to worry about really sharing these at this point because now we're just one cohesive team at this point. But anyway, we now have the live answer sets done, but because we're a blind pull lead stream, the dialer presets is how the dialing and live answer sets are controlled. So we're going to go to, actually, let's create, actually, no, we'll just use the default dialing set. So let's go to our dialer presets, and we're going to go to our networked preset. We can take a look at this, and maybe we're like, you know what, we want this actually to be default, and we want this one to be default. And we're going to save changes. Wait a second. Why did I just do that? Right? We need custom dialer presets for each individual. Now, the reason why I did that is I might want to, if I forget to do another piece of this configuration, I would want to have a dialer preset that has things that are not very specific to individual reps. So my default dialing and live answer sets, those might not be moving contacts into rep-specific folders or adding tags to rep-specific individuals, right? So that's why I might want to consider having a default dialer preset that's not moving anybody to any rep-specific folders or tagging anybody rep-specific. But now what we're going to do is we're just going to copy this. We're going to change this to, instead of copy, we're going to change this to Jeff. We could set a phone script if we wanted to, Jeff's voicemail, dialing set. Again, we're using default here, but live answer set needs to be Jeff's set. And we might want to set the caller ID to be the specific caller ID for Jeff, and so on and so forth. Now we've got that. Let's go ahead and copy that one. Actually, let's just copy the network preset again. I like that because then I can just go and put the agent in the parentheses there and then do all of the other things. So I might want to have a specific voicemail that's rep specific. I'm not going to worry about teaching you how to record a voicemail and things like that, but you could have rep specific voicemails, or it could just be an ask me in this particular case, right? So however you want to do that, but we do need to set the live answer set to match the rep. We could set the caller ID to match what that rep would want to use, and we'll save changes. So now we need to do one more. Let's go ahead and copy this. And again, configure all the settings for this specific rep and save changes. So now we have the dialer presets created for each individual rep. Now what we can do is we can jump over to our lead stream, and we can edit our networked blind pull. We can add or manage our recipients, which, remember, we didn't add anyone because we wanted to step away and talk about rep-specific live answer sets. So now we can start adding people, but we wouldn't necessarily want to add everybody all at the same time because we can't configure everything different while adding everyone at the same time. So what we're going to do is we're going to add everybody individually. So we're going to use Jeff Osnes. We're going to leave the receiving folder the same. We could potentially have different receiving folders for different reps if we wanted to. That's why I didn't lock it in. And we could then lock it in as we added that user if we wanted to. We could add limits if we wanted to. We're not going to worry about that. We want it to be set up as a blind pull. And since we're adding Jeff, we're going to use the network preset Jeff and add recipient. Now we're going to go ahead and add Heather. Again, the only thing we're changing here is the preset. And then we'll add Cassie. And now we have all three of our reps, all three callers have been added to this specific Blind Pull lead stream, but as they make calls, and we'll do this, I'll go ahead and make some calls as Jeff, right? So we got a networked Blind Pull. Oh wait, we don't have any contacts in there. We better get some contacts added. So let's go to contacts, and I'm gonna go ahead and import contacts into this, this lead stream. Let's go ahead and click browse. Let's grab some contacts. Of course, I'm not going to walk you through all the details of importing. Hopefully you've watched other videos. I don't want to bore you with that. We're just going to go through here, make sure some basic things are mapped, and go next. We're going to go, where are we at? Networked Blind Pull. We don't need to tag anything. I'm going to add a lead source. I'm doing that because I recommend that everybody always track all of their lead sources. I'm going to name mine after the lead stream it's going into, but you would probably be naming it after the actual company you bought it from or the type of lead that you're importing, so that you can track how effective and efficient you are with those leads and see if you even want to continue getting leads from that source. So go next. Yes, please import. That's going to process. I'm going to leave that, go to leads. It'll finish up. It'll notify me when it's done, and there it is. It's done. We've got 1,000 leads in there. I'm ready to begin dialing, so I click begin dial session. Now, because all of my settings are pre-configured at the dialer preset level, I can go straight into the dial session. So I can click here to begin. Click start dialing. Caller ID shows up. The contact that I'm calling shows up. Let's say it goes to voicemail. Obviously, those are going to recycle based off of our lead stream settings. If we don't connect with them, they're going to recycle. But if I connect with somebody like Michelle, I'm going to go ahead and end that call. Let's say I talk to Michelle and we set an appointment. Remember, our set appointment button is going to move contacts into the rep specific set appointment folder. Let's do another live answer. Let's do a follow-up. And remember, our follow-up is going to put contacts into the same follow-up folder. So I'm going to go ahead and mark that one as a follow-up and move on. So let's do one more follow-up. Let's go live answer, end call, follow-up, and I'm going to do today's date as the follow-up date, and let's move on. All right, so I'm the only one who's made calls, so everything's really simple now, right? If I go to contacts and I go to the Jeff's appointments folder, I'll see my contact that I just called right here, Michelle Martinez, is in the Jeff appointment folder. And it's my appointment, I can manage it, it's easy for me to deal with it, right? I'm networked. Everybody's just kind of stays in their own folders. But if I'm out of the office and Heather needs to make some calls for me, she's going to be able to see those contacts. She can just go into my folder and boom, she's ready to go. And then we've got our follow-up folder. Where did that get saved? That's going to be in here somewhere. There it is, follow-ups. So the problem with my follow-up folder is they're all essentially, it's all one folder, but you'll notice that they are tagged. So in this particular case, this one is tagged as Jeff. But now let's go into one of my team members. Let's go in as Heather. And we'll have Heather do some calls in this lead stream. So network blind pull, begin dialing. All right, so now we're calling. Didn't choose a voicemail, don't have a voicemail, whatever that might be, so I can't leave a voicemail. But live answer and call. Similar concept, we'll click set appointment, just so that we can see that this one does go into Heather's specific appointment folder. We'll do a follow-up, we'll do a future follow-up, and we'll do a follow-up for today, just like we did with Jeff. And then today, follow-up, and we can end this, right? So there we go. We've got some examples here. If we refresh, we'll see that the total available leads is now lower because we've made some calls. But if Heather goes to contacts and goes to the follow-up folder, we see all follow-ups, right? So again, one folder just to kind of keep the view, the number of folders down, but now we've got to consider how we are going to manage follow-ups, right? We want to make sure that Heather doesn't do Jeff's follow-ups, Jeff doesn't do Heather's follow-ups, unless of course they want to, right? All up to your team how follow-ups are handled. You could potentially have one person that does all follow-ups, in which case you could have a today's follow-ups view that just shows all records that have a follow-up date that is due. So as you see here, my today's follow-ups, which was created at the admin level, everybody sees it. This shows all contacts that have a follow-up date that is due or past due. And you'll see that we got Jeff and Heather both, we got the follow-ups for both Jeff and Heather in here. But that could be a problem, right? We don't want to be stepping on each other's toes. But don't worry, we got a solution for that. I'm logged in as Heather. I can do a saved search. So I'm going to click on Advanced Search. I'm going to create a saved search as Heather that looks for all contacts that are tagged with Heather that are in the follow-up folder. And have a follow-up date that is due or past due. So we go to follow-up date, today and before, apply, and I'll just call this follow-ups. Now, why am I not putting Heather's name on this one? I'll show you why. So I'm going to go ahead and search this. That creates the follow-ups folder or view, and you'll see it only shows Brian because he's the only one who's due to be called today and has Heather's tag. Right, so let's go ahead and pin this. There we go. It's now pinned, and it's different than today's follow-ups, which again was a saved search that we created to show all of the contacts that have a follow-up date due. Typically, we do that at the admin level when we're standalone, and then we can share it because we have all these different databases and people only see their contacts. But now watch what happens if I return to the admin account and I go to contacts in the admin account. You'll notice that there is no saved search called follow-ups because an individual user can create a saved search and that is not shared to the team. If I log in as Cassie, there is no follow-up saved search, because Cassie hasn't created her follow-up save search. But if I create that save search at the admin level, it is going to be visible for everyone. So if I'm creating those save searches in a networked account for everyone, and I can do that, I can certainly go in here and create one. Let's create one. I'll do Cassie's from the admin level. I'll do Jeff's and Cassie's, just so that you can see how this might work. So again, we want to go look at the follow-ups folder, management information, follow-up today and before, Jeff's follow-ups, and search. So Jeff has his. And let's go down here and pin it. Go to contacts. And Jeff will see it there. Now let's log in as Cassie. Oh no, we have to create Cassie's save search. Sorry about that. Let's go back to the advanced search. In tags, we're going to do Cassie. Management information, follow-up date, on or before today, and the follow-ups folder. And we'll do Cassie's follow-ups. So again, I could do this at the admin level. I can do it at the individual user level. If I do it at the individual user level, that save search is only visible to that user. But if I do it at the admin level, every user can see it. But what I can do and what I should do is make sure that the user that needs to work out of that pins it. So now that that's a shared save search, right? Cassie's the only one who needs to see it, so Cassie's the only one that pins it, and now she's all set. So now if Cassie were to start dialing from the networked Blind Pull LeadStream, hers had not everything defined, so she needs to make some choices here. We'll go ahead and hit continue. We'll go ahead and get connected. Start dialing. And here we are calling through our contact. Again, there's no voicemail in this account, so we hit no answer, whatever, live answer, end call, set appointment. Live answer, end call. Let's do a follow-up in the future. And live answer, end call today. So we essentially did the same thing on all three users, just so that you can see how that all works. So again, we're now down to 985 leads to be called. If we go to the receiving folder, right, we're going to see all of the contacts that were not moved into another folder that are waiting to in fact be recycled. So everybody can see that. Remember, we're using one receiving folder, so everybody can see that. But if we go to Cassie's follow-ups, she's only going to see her follow-ups. If she were to go to today's follow-ups, then she would see all follow-ups, regardless of who they're tagged by, and see all of them that are due or past due. If she goes to her appointments folder, she's going to see her appointments, because remember, we have a disposition that moves contacts into her specific folder. So anyway, I know that was a lot, but that is how you can configure a Blind Pull LeadStream in a networked account so that you can have a shared database, but ensure that everybody's calling different contacts and nobody's stepping on each other's toes. And then we talked about a few different ways or methods that you can manage the calls or the contacts that everybody connects with. Either you can put them into one pool and you can have one person or a couple of people that just kind of keep an eye on follow-ups and things like that, or like we talked about, you can set up different folders and tags to help keep the separation there while also giving everybody access to all the contacts. So anyway, I hope this helps you understand how you can take advantage of the networked account option and Blind Pull LeadStream so that you and your organization can get the most out of the PhoneBurner system. So thanks again for taking a moment to watch this video, and happy dialing.